Station 31. You read me? Found something in the ice.
I'm gonna hide this tape when I'm finished. If none of us make it, at least there'll be some kind of record. The storm's been hitting us hard now for 48 hours. We still have nothing to go on. We're all very tired. Nobody trusts anybody now.
Well, trust me when I tell you should watch this movie, because it doesn't really get better than this when it comes to horror movie effects. Think The Fly dialed up to 12 and it still cannot really begin to describe what this film has to offer. In this spoiler-free recommendation, I'm going to tell you why you should watch 1982's The Thing. The movie, directed by John Carpenter, is about a group of American scientists on a research station in Antarctica who one day encounter a dog. Now, the strange thing about that dog is that the Norwegians from another station nearby seem hell-bent on killing it, because there is no way for both teams to communicate, and after a series of unfortunate events, both Norwegians are killed, so that the Americans are left with the dog without any knowledge of why the Norwegians wanted it dead so badly. However, it doesn't take the team long to realize that there's something seriously wrong with that dog. The movie features a big cast of 12 characters, but that is absolutely necessary for a horror story like this, where you want enough potential victims to keep things interesting. Even though we never really find out what this team is researching, we know that they got 2 biologists named Blair and Fuchs, 1 geologist named Norris, and Bennings, who is a meteorologist. To keep the station running, we have Gary the commander, helicopter pilot McReady, radio operator Windows, Dr. Copper the physician, Knowles the cook, and Clark the dog handler. And last but not least, the 2 mechanics, Childs and Palmer. These 12 people form a closely knit community where everyone has to rely on and trust the other members, which makes it even more unnerving when suddenly the Thing is amongst them and they don't know who to trust anymore. Because even though this film belongs to the horror genre, it is also a very captivating whodunit where you never know who might be working against the group. The tension does not come from you expecting a monster to jump out behind every corner, but from it standing right next to you without you knowing. The tense atmosphere is created by the horror being slow and fully visible when it's time for a big reveal. Having the monster just there and the character's reaction to it is way more captivating and horrifying than any jump scare could ever be. This is a movie for the patient, but when it delivers fully without holding back anything. And this brings me to the real reason why this movie is still such a cult classic even today, namely the effects of the legendary Rob Bottin. And if I say this name, your jaw should already be on the floor, because he is an absolute legend when it comes to practical effects. Having worked on movies like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Seven, Total Recall and RoboCop, his IMDb goes as far back as to the original Star Wars movie. If you want awesome practical effects, he is the guy to go to, and The Thing is his magnum opus. What he achieved here is truly mind-blowing, stunning and absolutely one of a kind. Every effect is unique. As Rob Bottin said,
I wanted to make The Thing also never look the same twice, because if we see it again and again and again and again in the movie, you get kind of bored with it, and it just becomes a very familiar, object. So I wanted to keep it an ever-changing creature. I knew that.
Rob Bottin was so dedicated to his job that in the end he had to be hospitalized due to exhaustion, and fellow special effects legend Stan Winston had to finish his work. Now, not heeding your personal health is not something I encourage. In this case, I'm just mentioning it to show you how much passion and love went into these creatures and effects, and how special the things that they achieved here truly were. If a take was not satisfactory, setting up a new one took hours of work, rebuilding parts that had been destroyed. Because if you see something rip or break in this movie, it really ripped or broke on set. Hours of work destroyed in a second. But that's what makes The Thing so believable and truly horrifying. It looks real because it is real.
And John goes, "Cut! Thank you very much, Mr. Bottin." Like that. He goes, "What happened?" He goes, "That was horrible." Like that. He goes, "It looked like a fountain in Las Vegas, right?" And Charlie's going like, "Wait a minute, do we got to do this all over again?" I look at him and I go, "Yeah, Charlie, really sorry." And John goes, "Wait a minute, what do you mean?" And I go, "Well, the ripped open." we got to, take this all apart and put a whole new one on. And John goes, we got to do this tonight. And I'm going like, oh my God, So on the thing, take 2 meant hours, right?
I cannot stress enough that what you are going to see here goes far and beyond anything you would expect in a horror movie of that time, as you are left stunned not only by the gruesomeness of it all, but also by the thought of how on earth did they do this. By the way, if you're thinking Rob Bottin looks young in these interviews, he was only 23 at the time. But even apart from the incredible special effects, the movie has a lot to offer. Its tense, claustrophobic atmosphere sucks you in as you realize that these people are truly isolated. There is no one coming for help as the horror unfolds. Tension rises until its breaking point, until you sit glued in your seats and are overwhelmed by the same horror as the characters are. Like with The Fly, the effects are amazing, but they never overshadow the people or the story. You are never rooting for the monster. In a genre that focuses on blood and gore, and the viewer wanting to see blood and gore, it is easy to drift off as a movie where the audience is rooting for the next horror effect, wishing for the characters to meet their demise, but that does not happen here. Having such gratuitous horror and at the same time making the audience root entirely for the humans is an incredible accomplishment. While the movie may be dated in some respect, the effects still look as fresh and unbelievably terrifying as they did in 1982. This is not a movie where you eat while watching. John Carpenter once said that of the movies he made, this was the one he liked the most, and he was truly disappointed when it flopped at the box office. Thankfully, it is a cult classic today. I guess this is just a case of...
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But your kids are gonna love it.
Sadly, I cannot show you any of the effects, since this is a whodunit type of situation and showing you some of the horror would ultimately be a spoiler. The trailer does a fairly good job of showing you what the movie is about without spoiling too much, but as I said, showing any effects at all is a spoiler in and of itself in my opinion. Also, like with The Fly, typing that movie into Google search or YouTube will automatically result in you seeing images that will spoil certain plot points. If you like slow, suspenseful horror that gradually builds until it explodes, where you get to know the characters first and root for every single one of them, uncertainty with danger lurking behind every corner, where every person around you might be working against you, and at the same time love totally believable special effects that show you something you have never seen before in your life and are never gonna forget, with real puppets and hours of work, lovingly crafted and totally unique in every way, this is the movie for you. If you're asking yourself how much I love this movie, I own it on DVD and have one fan shirt of it that I absolutely love. Also, very importantly, don't make the mistake of watching the 2011 prequel, because they replaced all the practical effects with CGI. It looks absolutely horrible and not in a good way. If you ever want to know why CGI just doesn't compare in any way to traditional practical effects, or if you are a skeptic yourself or know a skeptic, this is the movie to watch, because this is as good as it gets. So, did I convince you? Will you watch it? Leave a comment and let me know. Finally, I'm gonna leave you with this clip that gives you a bit of an idea of what the movie is like.
You're saying to me the dog wasn't put in the kennel until last night?
Right.
How long were you alone with that dog?
I don't know, an hour and a half maybe. What the hell are you looking at me like that for?
I don't know.
What?
I don't know. It's probably nothing. It's nothing at all.
Okay, here we are with the freestyle portion. I cannot... Oh my god, I did the whole recording on the wrong microphone, so I'm doing it all again, and I'm telling you all of this again. But yeah, of course I do this. I like doing this because I love this movie, and it's definitely worth it. So it might be a bit ironic that I say I don't actually like horror movies, when the first two things I recommend are horror movies, but I think this is just because I really, really love effects. I love practical effects a lot. And so these are the two, in my opinion, the two best horror practical effects movies. These movies are far and beyond anything you'd expect in a horror movie, or that I expected when I was watching an old horror movie. These two, for me, are the gold standard at which to measure all other horror movies or all other horror movie effects, because they are so good. I think if you look up horror movie effects or best special effects in horror movies, I think these, The Fly and The Thing, are the ones that are gonna pop up the most. So yeah, this is just one of the examples where I say, if you think CGI can do everything better than practical effects, no. And if you watch this, you will know why. Because of this sequel that they did. Well, it's a prequel, but it was filmed in 2011. And they did everything with practical effects and then replaced that afterwards with CGI, and it was the worst thing anyone ever did. Well, maybe except for altering the original Star Wars effects. And if you are interested, I can recommend this series of videos from one of my favorite YouTubers ever, who did a deep dive into what happened, who shows you the animatronics, who shows you how they were altered. I put the video right here, but I'll censor the image because it would be a spoiler, and this is a spoiler-free video. But yeah, this guy made a whole series on The Thing, on Rob Bottin. All these videos are amazing. They show you the craft, the art of practical effects. If you're, like me, interested in something like that, you should definitely watch it. So yeah, the next movie I'm gonna do is gonna be a horror movie again, surprisingly, but not one known for the practical effects, but more so for the ending. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to. Maybe I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.